Alright guys, new class for you here. Battlemage, is what we're going to do here. And let's take a look at the character here. So I'm just going to rifle off a bunch of different things here on how you make a battle mage. And then we'll get into the actual build. I was monkeying around with this when I was doing a thing on about, making women sexy and in these video games, right? In these RPGs, Oblivion and Skyrim and that. And I came across using an Imperial, making them in a battle mage, which was rather interesting. Then I thought, well, let's monkey around with this and see what we got. So, battle mage is magic, and they have intelligence and strength. So I'm combining Oblivion and Skyrim together, okay? Um, they use alchemy, alteration, blade, blunt, conjuration. I have a question mark about that one. I'm not too sure. Destruction, mysticism, which is illusion, and they use light or heavy armor. I'm going with the light armor myself, so I'm more mobile and I have like more carry weight. You know what I mean? So it's like heavy armor would be like really bulky. Restoration and little bit on the light side of blacksmith. I'll talk about that. I got a question mark there. And also a question mark by, enchantments. I really don't think that we get into that far into the character. And that's why I put the blacksmith and enchanting kind of like question mark. I'll explain it as we go along with the build, okay? We use things like flame, shock, heat, sword. We use one-handed, right? So that this way we're dual wielding, so that one hand we're either restoring our health or shooting out flames. Like here, I'll show you what I mean here, okay? Demonstration wise. We're doing this, right? Okay. Alright. This is why we want to dual wield like this, okay? Where we're using like one hand is one weapon and the other hand is our magicka, right? Okay, so things like magicka, we got like flames and spark. Conjuration, I don't know about that one, but we'll see as we go along. Restoration we use to heal ourselves, right? Okay. And then we have dragon skin, which is why we took a Breton. Absorbs 50% of the magic for, a minute. Okay. And so we got resistance to magic. And we took the mage stone. So I'll get around to this whole build here, okay? Alright. So, let's let's do this first actually. So our weapon is a sword, one hand, okay, alright. And we use a bow, like for distance, okay. Alright. We could have a steel dagger for backup, but it's mainly just these two right here, okay, for this side of things, alright. Our apparel, like I said, I'm using all light armor. Okay. You could go heavy armor if you want to. You could even use mage's robes if you want to. But I think it takes away from the immersion factor because we're supposed to be a battle mage, meaning we should have light or medium or heavy armor kind of stuff, or we, kind of thing mixed in with our thing. So like we're part mage and we're part warrior, right? Okay, like, so we want to reflect that, right? Okay. All right, so that's what we're looking at there. We do make our own potions in that. We can make our own food. What else? Okay, we'll get into that later. I already talked about that. So let's get into this. Now, we're a Breton, okay? We're a battle mage. And here's all the different things we can do. Let's start with alchemy because it's easier that way. So we do alchemy, and we can go up all of these because we can poison and everything like that because we are a warrior, right? Okay. So we can totally do this. Snake blood. I wouldn't do purify because it makes no sense if you're trying to poison them, right? If you decide to go up the poison one. I wouldn't do green thumb either. That doesn't make any sense. So concentrated poison, experimenter, up to snake blood, and then I would leave it at that. But you can go on both sides of that, physician and poison, okay? Alright, so that's alchemy. Then we have illusion, and we do illusion, which is to calm and have invisibility, and we use fear spells. So we can actually make people afraid of us, we can calm them down, and we can turn invisible because we're a freaking battle mage, right? So we want to work all of this around, getting into combat for the most part, okay? So I wouldn't necessarily say that this is a primary skill, but you get the kind of idea of where we're going with this, right? Because then we can get into Animage and Kindred Spirit and that, right? And then we can get into things like, calm and that right here, Hypnotic Gaze, all this, aspects of terror, rage, so frenzy and all that kind of stuff, right? And we could even get into where we affect the undead and that too, because like we're a warrior. So actually we could use this whole tree. All right, so we can use the whole thing in illusion. Conjuration, I got a question mark beside that, because like we can do soul trap and things like that. And if we're gonna do stuff like that, then we'll probably want to get into enchantments too as well, right? So like I said, but the thing I do like about this is that we can do things like we can summon stuff, right, to fight for us and that, right? Like we got all this stuff. I don't think we would get into necromancy, all right? Elemental potency, yeah, definitely. You know, um, Twin Souls, Dark Souls. There's a lot here that we could do with this, right? Okay, but I'm not too sure about that. I have a question mark, so we'll get back to the conjuration later. Okay, destruction, definitely. We do destruction massively, especially with flames and shock and that. I'm using flames right now and shock. We can use like everything in this one. Like here we got fireballs, ice spikes and lightning bolts. I'm doing flames and I'm doing shock, right? Because a lot of things have protection against flame and against ice, but they don't have anything when it comes to shock. So you want to go and definitely pick up shock, which is what I got here, right? Okay, so like yeah, we can do like this whole friggin' thing, augment flames, intensity, shock, and frost damage and all that kind of stuff, right? Disintegrate, that would be a great one to have. Like, shock damage disintegrates the target if their health is low. Like, that's pretty badass, right? So this is deep freeze. There's another great one too. So like, we got deep freeze, we got intense flames, deep freeze, and shock, and that to the extreme, right? Which is really, really cool. So like those are the three that we're going to want to roll with, is ice, fire, and shock damage. I'm not too sure about runes in that, we're looking at getting right into the face of the enemy and just blasting them with magic and with, our sword, right? So we're just like combat heavy. I don't recommend doing dual casting because we want one hand free for other things, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing with that one. Restoration, yes, because this is how we're going to heal ourselves, okay, all right? And then here we can do like, recovery, avoid death, things like that, right? Um, we're not really into wards in that. We can do respite where we get back health and that, and stamina, and we can definitely cause damage to the undead and that for sure, because we're a battle mage, right? And regeneration, absolutely. So those are the things that we can do in that category, right? And then in terms of being an adept in that, just depends on the power of the spells that we get, as we go along, okay? All right? Alteration is another one that we do because we can paralyze the enemy and things like that, right? Okay? And we can also get magic armor protection. So we can get, magic armor, which will add to our armor, even though we already have armor, we're using armor. We still get extra magic points for this, right? So we can do that. We can also absorb the magic and block the magic as well, too. So that will come in handy, too, as well. We can do stability if you want to. Absorbs 30% of the magicka from spells if they hit you. Yeah, we could do that. And, well, this all just depends on, if you need whatever level you need for your spells, okay? All right, that you're going to be casting, okay? All right. So we're definitely doing that. Now, I'm not too sure about enchanting, but it kind of goes with our shock in that, because you see here we got fire, we got frost, we got storm. This is our three elements that we're using with the other one. So I was thinking, like, like I know normally battle mages don't use, I mean, they do use conjuration, but they don't use enchantments. But I thought this might actually be a really good twist to it if we did enchantments, because if we did, then we could have our elements be affected here, and then all of a sudden our stuff gets enchanted, right? Plus, if we take the Soul Stealer out of conjuration, which is one of the things that we would be doing if we're going to go down the conjuration, then we can squeeze the soul and soul siphon, except the only thing is it doesn't work on people, but it works on everything else, right? Now, blacksmithing, we're not going to go into like steel, this, and that, okay? Unless we need to do this right here, okay? To improve magical weapons and armor, right? Okay, we might want to level this up in terms of to acquire this skill only. So we would be taking this one to open up this one, and that's it. We're not here to build our own weapons and armors and that. We're just here to slightly modify them. Okay, you notice I don't have any perks in most of this stuff. We definitely can go heavy armor. You can go block if you want to, but I don't recommend it. I don't recommend two-handed. One-handed is what we do. Okay, so with my build anyway, we do one-handed, and what we're doing here is blades. So we can go up here and do swords. Right here, if I can get it to settle down, Blades Master, right? Okay, all right. And we can do all the different stances in that because we are a fighting class, right? We're a battle mage, right? Okay. But I don't recommend dual welding or anything like that. And here we got even paralyzing strike, which we can pick up in that too. So again, we're like one-handed, not two-handed, which is why I wouldn't go with block, Okay, all right. And I'll recap this here in a second, but we're one-handed, okay? We do archery, and we can get into this however you want to. You can do all of this if you like, because we are a battle mage, right? So we're good with the bow, we're good with one-handed, we're good with heavy or light armor, and we're good with destruction magic and things like that, right? Okay. Here you can see I'm going light armor, so you could take everything in this, or you could go heavy armor and take everything in heavy armor. Reason why I'm going light armor is because the encumbersome. We don't sneak. We only pick locks when we need to break into things, and that's it. We don't pick pockets. Speechcraft is, for we could do intimidation, right? And we're not really into buying and selling in that, so I wouldn't go up that part at all. I would just maybe put something in there. I wouldn't even put anything in there really, unless you want to get this intimidation, right? Unless you want to be intimidating. So speechcraft, I would say no. We're just buying and selling stuff normally, okay? Alchemy, we're definitely doing, and I think I already did this. We go up to physician, all the way up to experimenter, and we do poison, and we do snake blood, and we end it at snake blood. Okay, we don't do green thumb. Okay, so that's that. So let's go over the spells again. Okay, so we do illusion. I'm not too sure about this one. We do destruction, we do restoration, and we do alteration. Okay, not too sure about this one. We don't do this, we just do this to slightly modify our equipment, but we're not going to be making like heavy armor or light armor, okay? We can go heavy armor, no blocking, no two-handed, We do one-handed with a sword. We do archery. We do light armor. No sneaking. No. No. And we only do this in terms of, like, buying and selling. And when it comes to lock picking, I said no, but we only do it in terms of, like, opening up chests in dungeons and that, okay? And I do believe that's everything, okay? So the only one I'm questioning is conjuration, and I would say I'd leave it up to you. You guys, right? Like, if you want to use it or not. But if you're going to use it, you're going to use it to soul trap. You know what I mean? And then you're going to, yeah, see, like, I know that battle mages use conjuration, but I don't like the idea of it because then you can conjure astromechs and flame astromechs, and you can get, like, really super overpowered. And I think having too much on your plate, it would be overwhelming, okay? So we're in this, I would take away conjuration. So here's how this is going to work again. One more time. Alchemy, yes. Illusion, yes. Conjuration, no. Destruction, yes. Restoration, yes. Alteration, yes. Enchanting, no. Blacksmithing, no. Heavy armor, yes. Blocking, no. Two-handed, no. One-handed, yes. Archery, yes. Light armor, yes. Sneaking, no. Lockpicking, no. Pickpocketing, no. Speech, no. Alchemy, yes. And then we're back to illusion, which we said yes, okay? Now, for the ones that we said no to, that's because we're just buying and selling stuff. We're not going to level this up except for buying and selling, okay? We're not a thief. Again, we only use this to be able to break into chests in our adventures, okay? We're not a thief, and we're not a two-handed build. We don't do blocking. We don't do smithing because we're not making our own equipment, okay? We don't do enchanting. And we don't do conjuration. Everything else is go. And that's our character. So we're focusing on gathering magic. As you can see, I got 10 points in magic already. I leveled up once already. So we're going, like, 2 or 3 into magic, and then stamina and health, okay? Like 1 in each one of those, okay? So for every 5 levels, we're putting 3 into magic, 1 into health, and 1 into stamina, okay? For every 5 levels, okay? So 5 levels would be, you're going to do 3 magic right off the bat, and then you're going to go stamina, and then you're going to go health, okay? Because we're going to be blasting them with our magic. You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing here. So, like, our magic is the main go-to with our one-handed sword. Like, we're blazing them like this. Here, let me demonstrate, okay? So we're doing it like this. See what I mean? This is how we're fighting. Okay, so like we're just constantly, just wailing on them with, like, flame or shock even. Let's do this as another demonstration, right? Since we're doing this, right? Okay. See, this is why, like, like, we can conjure familiar. Like, I don't agree with that, but we got restoration in that too, right? But look, we can do sparks too. Some of them you can do while you do it, and some of them you can't. I kind of try to mix it up like that. So, like, let's say we were doing this, and what I do first is I do this. I use my magic first, and then when they get close in, then I switch to the sword. And then I finish them off with the sword. So I attack with magic first, and then I finish them off with the sword. And I'm sticking with stuff that's distance, like. See how that's distance, right? Okay. All right. That is sparks. Now look at this, flames. Okay? I'm not using fireballs or lightning balls. I'm using stuff that's a steady stream, okay? And that's the way I'm making my build, okay, is a steady stream. Because in this way, they're constantly getting bombarded by the flame or the shock the whole time. And then when they come in close, I use my sword on them, okay? And then that's when I finish them off with that, and I usually get an instant kill right there, okay? So distance, followed by this. Now, the bow and arrow is only there just to let you know why I put the bow and arrow there, because it's normally not in a Battlemage build, but we're using a bow and arrow for enemies that we can't hit, like dragons, for example, that love to fly around. We can't hit them. You know, we're using it for enemies that are up on battlements that we can't get to and stuff like that. Then we pull out the bow and arrow. Our main go-to is distance with the magic, followed by the one-handed with the sword. That's our main go-to. Those are our main offensive weapons, is destruction magic with flames and shock, you know, just a constant stream, right? Okay. Followed by our one-handed blade, right? Okay. And we're just like, you know, we're going to use that as they get closer to us. So the further away they are, that's it. The only time we pull out the bow and arrow, and this is why we got it, is, like I said, things like dragons, we can't get them to land, you know, or we got enemies that are so far up high that we can't get at them because they're up on a battlement or something, and you can't get to the battlement for some reason. Otherwise, your main go-to is your destruction magic, followed by your sword, okay? And that's what we're going to be doing here, okay? Alchemy, we're using that to create stamina potions, health potions, and magicka potions, okay? And the other stuff is self-explanatory. It's up to you if you want to do light or heavy armor. I'm going with light armor so that this way I can have more for encumbersome. Like you see here, my carry weight is 300, and right now I'm only at 104, and I got quite a bit of stuff that I'm carrying around already, you know, and that sort of thing, right? So that's the whole thing. We make our own food too, and I recommend going with this right here, to be honest with you, because it gives us stamina and it gives us health, you know, which is really going to help us out with the combat stuff, right? So this is like how we're going to get our health back and how we're going to get our stamina back, you know. And like I said, we can make our own potions here, you know, and we can even do things like, you know, frostbite venom and that kind of stuff, right? But you can see here we got quite a bit of health potions, some magic, and some stamina, right? Again, I'm using light armor, okay? And you can go heavy if you want to, all right? And I'm using one-handed sword, so here I got an iron sword, you know, and I really want to get a steel one as soon as I can, you know, kind of thing, right? But there you go. Like, you know, so this is what we're rocking with right now. I'm about to step into this dungeon right here and give them a surprise of their life here. As you can see, I just wasted somebody here. But I thought I would do the build first. Oh, and things that you can do, guilds and followers and that, I almost forgot about that. So we started off here in Helgen. Okay, we go over here to the stone. We're taking the mage stone. This is a magic build because we're a battle mage. So our main go-to is magic followed by the sword. So we're doing the mage stone here, okay? Then we work our way up to Riverwood, and then we can go, I haven't done it yet, to Whiterun. I want to go in here and get the ore and all that that's in there, right? We can do this. Guilds we can and cannot join. We're not a thief, so we're not going to join the Thieves Guild. We can join the Fighters Guild because we are a battle mage, so we can join the Fighters Guild. We can join the College of Winterhold, so we can join the Mages Guild up here, so we can join them. Okay, we can join the Mages Guild. And Dark Brotherhood, I don't consider the Battle Mage to be an assassin class. That's where like ninjas and that kind of stuff, right? You know, so we don't do the Dark Brotherhood quests neither, right? Okay, so we don't do Dark Brotherhood, we don't do the Thieves Guild, we do the College of Winterhold, we do the like, for the magic, right? And we do the champions here for the Fighters Guild in Whiterun, okay? And those are the two guilds that we join because we're a battle mage. So we're going to join the Mages Guild and we're going to join the Fighters Guild. And those are the two guilds that we can join, that we can belong to, okay? All right? So we can have a follower if we want to because we are into fighting and we really don't have any preference. Now, because I put a question mark beside conjuration, now this depends if you want to involve an alignment, okay? If you're going to be evil and you're just going to go around and kill everything indiscriminately and you don't care, you want to be chaotic evil kind of thing, then I would suggest going into conjuration because you're going to go after soul trapping and you're going to go and trap people's souls, okay? And you're going to go and trap creature souls. The thing I don't like about conjuration is that it allows you to summon familiars and astromechs and flame mechs, and basically they're going to destroy everything for you, right? We kind of want to make this challenging for us. Now, I'm playing this on master difficulty, just to let you know. I will do a little bit of let's play with this, like I was doing with the Imperial when I was messing around, because I was doing some other video for it instead. But the one to do this with is definitely the Breton, is the way to go with this build. Yes, we covered the stones, we covered the guilds, we covered followers. You can have followers, you can pick anybody you want to. For that one, you can pick Fendel if you want a bowman. You can pick, like, Lydia if you want someone up close and personal to fight, or Aelia, or any of the other people that are available. You can even pick the wizard in Riften over there. He's available for 500 gold. And this guy over here, when you go into the place there to buy food and that sort of thing, right? The guy over here, he's OP. Like, he casts lightning magic, and this guy is incredibly OP, okay? All right? So there's a follower you could get, but just remember he's OP. Like, I wouldn't use him myself for anything at all. Like, I would avoid that guy with all builds. And that's basically it. I think we covered everything now with it, and then you just go out and have fun. And I think that out of all the builds that you could do, that would be the most fun to do with a really good balance between magic and between fighting is this one right here, because I included you to have the ability to use restoration magic so you can heal yourself and you can heal others too, right? And then you can rally people to you, and you can do like things like battle cry and all that. We're a battle mage, right? So we're like, all about destruction and things like that, and all about, using our weapons like, one-handed and that sort of thing. Now, maybe I'm over-explaining it, but I'm just trying to say, our, two things there is intelligence and strength if you're doing this in Oblivion. If you're doing it in Oblivion and you're making Battle Mage, you're going to make it Magic class, and you're going to make it with intelligence and strength, and then the skills are going to be the skills that I listed off here, okay? All right, so Alchemy, Alteration, Blade, Blunt, question mark on Conjuration. Like I said, I'm not going to use Conjuration though. Destruction Magic, Mysticism, which is Illusion, they're worded differently in Oblivion. Light or heavy armor, restoration, and I already told you what I said about blacksmithing and enchanting, how I feel about that. We're using flame, shock, heal, and we're doing one-handed swords so that we can use a weapon in one hand and be able to heal or cast spells with the other hand to be able to do shock, flame, and ice and that kind of damage, okay? So primarily we're going to be looking at blade and destruction and restoration as our main go-tos, with destruction and blade being our primary attacks. Like I said, this is what we're going to do, is we're going to be like this, right? There's an enemy right there, right? We're going to blast them until they get close up, and then we're going to really let them have it with this, right? Okay? And that's how we're going to finish them off, and then if we get close to dying, then we can just switch over to restoration and heal ourselves, okay? All right, and that's basically how it works. And our power is dragon skin, which allows us to absorb 50% of the magic, which is just an incredible thing to do. And I bet you I'm going to forget to use that because we get to use it once a day, right? So that's awesome. So we have the Mage's Stone, so that we level up quicker with the magic. And because we're Breton, we got 25% resistance to magic, right? And we also have Dragon Skin, which absorbs 50% of the magic. Now, understand what that means. You get that magic, right? Okay. So we're doing damage and we're bringing it in. And we're doing restoration and destruction here so far is what I got. And you already know the rest of it. So that's it, guys. That's where I'm at. I'm about to head into this place here, And hopefully you found this helpful. And if you have, I hope that you enjoyed the build. And thanks a lot for watching. Sorry if I over-explained it there on you guys, But thanks a lot for watching. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.